Good morning, everybody. It is just gone 10 o'clock, and welcome to what is Crimson's now fourth Ask the Experts webinar. Thank you to all those that have joined. My name is Luke, and I'll be hosting the session today. We started running these sessions last year to provide us with an opportunity to share what is new in the world of Microsoft technology. And as you may already be aware, Microsoft is a set of platforms and solutions which helps organizations navigate their way through customer journeys, business processes, and also their own internal employee journeys. Microsoft listened to feedback through their customers and their partner networks and invest a significant amount of effort into developing the underlying solutions across the ecosystem. On the back of all of this development, it's Crimson's job to keep up to speed with these changes, and this session provides an opportunity for us to share what is new, what has changed, and what we believe is exciting across the Microsoft stack. As always, the agenda for today will be broken down into 4 component parts aligned to the Crimson Solutions cloud practices: Dynamics 365, Azure, Power Platform, and Microsoft 365. Each section will be broken down into 10-minute chunks, and there will be a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to ask any questions during the presentations by using the chat facility or by raising your hands during the Q&A at the end. First of all, before I hand over to the team, I shall provide a brief overview of Crimson, what we do and how we help our customers. Crimson helps organisations unite people, process and technology. We work with organisations to help them get the most out of their investment in the Microsoft Cloud, helping them to solve their most complex business challenges. We work with organisations across their full IT project journey, from ideation, inception, requirements gathering and establishing the business case, through the project implementation, then into BAU, support and adoption. Microsoft have very recently moved the goalpost, as always with Microsoft, they love moving the goalpost, for definition of partner status, making it harder to attain. And I'm pleased to say that Crimson are now defined as a Microsoft Solutions partner for business applications, data and AI, Azure, digital and app innovation. The IT services Crimson can provide is really be broken down into 4 key areas of resourcing services, specialist IT consultancy, cloud services, and managed services. Recently rebranded from Harvey Nash, Crimson are part of the Nash Squared Group. Nash Squared is a global professional services organisation aiming to bring together technology and talent. They have big growth aspirations for their IT solutions footprint across the globe, and the acquisition of Crimson has really brought a significant level of investment in everything we do. This in turn is fantastic for our customers and means we can do more to explore Microsoft solutions and how they can help each of our customers' specific needs. Crimson deal with a whole host of different organisations of shapes and sizes and from a number of different sector backgrounds. What this means really is we are able to share stories and interesting use cases of the technology across all of these different sectors. So now to meet the team who will be joining us today. First of all, I'll be handing over to Martin, who'll be delving into everything Dynamics 365. Then to Steve, who absolutely loves Azure, can't get away from him, be diving into everything Azure. Ollie, who's our Power Platform specialist. And then finally, Caroline, who'll be investigating the world of Microsoft 365. First of all, then, I'll be handing over to Martin, who'll be conducting our first session on Dynamics 365. Over to you, Martin.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Good morning, everybody. So let me just grab the screen because I'm actually going to do a live demo this morning. Okay, so what I've chosen to do for my 10-minute slot this morning is just a quick run through of the Dynamics 365 sales sequences that are part of the sales accelerator that you get with Dynamics 365 sales premium licensing. So what you can see here is that I'm sitting in Dynamics, I'm sitting in the Sales Hub, and I'm looking at the Sales Accelerator section of the interface here. I'm going to come back to this at the end of the demo, but just to pick out some of the things that you can see on here is that I've got a list here of different records. Some of them are contacts, some of them are opportunities, some of them are leads. And basically what that's doing is that it's showing me where I am with these records in the sequence. So first of all, then, what is a sequence? So a sequence is basically a series of steps that you would want to complete a particular process. So this could be something like nurturing a new lead. It could be progressing an opportunity through to hopefully completion, or it could be something like you're engaging with a contact, you've arranged a meeting, the contact doesn't turn up for the meeting, so what you actually want to do is you want to do a process to arrange a follow-up meeting. With sequences, they can be linked to the different entities within CRM. So as standard, it's accounts, contacts, leads, and opportunities, but you can add them to other entities as well. But it's those four that you get out of the box. So what I'm going to do is just first of all show you how you create a sequence. And what I've done is I've actually created a couple in advance of this demo just to save a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the sales insight settings. Now I've already opened this up on another tab. So I've changed the section down here and I've dropped from sales, I've dropped into sales insight settings. And then what you'll notice is that on your sales insight settings here in the navigation bar, here you'll have this option called sequences. So if I select the sequences here, if I want to create a new sequence, then basically I would use the new sequence button here. Let me just quickly click on that, and you'll see that it gives you the ability to choose from an existing sequence or a template, and then you can use that template as the basis for the new sequence that you're creating. Alternatively, you can start from a blank sequence and build it up from scratch. So as I said, to save time, I've actually created some sequences already. So what I've done is I've created this one called Crimson Meeting No Show. So what I'm going to do is just open that one. And what you get is this very visual sort of designer that allows you to sort of map out your sequence, and it always has to start with a sequence starts here box, and then it travels from there. So let me edit this sequence quickly. It warns me that I am making changes to an active sequence, but that's okay. And what you can then see is that you get these little plus signs here, which allow you to add in the different components. So if I just click on the plus sign here to add in the components, so you can see I can add in a variety of different steps. So I can send an email. So with the send an email, you also get a send automated email as well. So obviously the difference with that is this is basically advising the user they need to send an email. This one is going to actually automatically send the email, and then you've got things like make a phone call, complete a task, and set wait time. Now in addition to those, you've also got conditions, so you can do a condition based on a field value, but you can also link your sequences to your business process stages as well. So the business process bars that you typically have at the top of a lead form or an opportunity form, for example, then you can actually use those as part of the condition within the sequence too. You've also got commands where you can advance to another sequence, or you can update a field. And it also has the ability to do LinkedIn integration as well. But obviously you will need to enable that, and bear in mind that there is potentially some licensing implication with that, because you may need LinkedIn Sales Navigator and so on. So basically what you'd do is you'd pick the bit that you want to add into your sequence, and then what it will do is it will put it in here for you. And then basically if you click on them, this is where you can set up the settings for each one. So you can see here, this one is sending an email. The email is going to be request for another meeting. Here's the description, but then here, this is the email template. So you can even associate templates with these so that when the user actually then gets to that step in the sequence, all they need to do is basically say, send the email, it will show them the template, and then they can send it if they're happy with it. And then obviously here we've got a condition one. So this is where we advance to the next condition. So this is looking at the email conditions. So basically, have they replied in this case? So has the recipient replied? And we're going to wait for some strange reason. I've put in 1 day and 1 hour, but anyhow, that's the time that we're going to wait for to check for the reply. So as you can see, it's very simple to build up these sequences. The designer makes it really, really useful for us to do that. Now, what I'm going to do is just cancel and discard the changes because obviously I don't want to change that sequence. So the other things that I just wanted to quickly show you in here as well is that if I pick this one, for example, the new lead nurturing one, what I can then do is I can connect the leads in this case to the segment, and you can see I've already connected the leads here to the segment. So I can do add a connected lead here, and then basically it's like an advanced find. You basically just choose the records you want to add to the lead, add to the sequence, and it adds them in. But there are other ways of doing that, and I will show you those in a second. But you can also add a segment as well. So you can build out sales segments, and you can see I've got one here, and then I can select that and I can connect that. And then any contact or lead that gets added to those segments will automatically get added to that sequence as well. If you want to create new segments, over here on the left-hand side, underneath the sequences, we've got segments, and this is where you would build out your new segment. So if you're able to do an advanced find within Dynamics, you'll be able to create these new segments. So basically all you need to do is give your segment a name, give it a description, basically say what entity you're targeting, whether it's a opportunity, a lead, a contact, or an account, and then basically using the kind of the advanced find type structure, you specify what the conditions are for those records to be added to that segment. So very, very easy to set these things up. So I'm just keeping an eye on my time. So if I go back to the actual Dynamics page, so once the sequences are actually running, then the Sales Accelerator page will basically show me here where I am in regards. So it's basically summarizing where I am with regards to my sequences. So if I click on the top one here, for example, Adam Round is a contact. And you can see that he's involved in the request another meeting sequence, and you can see here if I look at the Adam Round contact record, then you can see it's showing me here in the up next component. It's actually showing me what's up next in the sequence. So if I click on the email here, what it will then do is if I maximize this screen so we can see it, it's basically going to show me an email record, and then down here I can actually see the email because it's pulling it from a template, and then all I would need to do is to send that, and then it would basically move me on to the next step in the sequence. So you can see it's now at the waiting for recipient reply step in the sequence. So that's using the Sales Accelerator dashboard. But very quickly, if I go into leads, for example, and open up a lead, you can see that I'm actually seeing it here in the full form as well. So you can see this one is doing an introduction email. I can send the email. If I scroll down here, this actually lets me see all the follow-up steps in the sequence. So you can see, I can see what's actually coming up in the sequence. If I go to a contact, because I did say there are other ways of adding the records to the sequence. So if I pick Abby Gardner, for example, you can see at the moment she's not connected to any sequences. So what I can do here is use the connect sequence button, and then it will give me the list of sequences that are available for that particular entity. So remember when I said when you define the sequence, you have to say what entity it relates to. So all I would have to do then is choose that and select connect, and then it will connect Abby to that sequence for me, and you can see it's now populating the up next. So it's ready to go. So really, really powerful, great for salespeople and people working sort of new business. So basically where you're nurturing leads into accounts and contacts and opportunities, it just allows you to be able to define very precise processes, but obviously using the sequences. Really easy to use, and really great from getting some insight into how you're engaging with your customers. So I'm going to pause there, and unless there's any questions, I will hand back to Luke.
Fantastic. Yeah, reminder, if there is any questions, please feel free to use the chat facility, or you can be shouting up at the end for Q&A. Great stuff there, Martin. I think nurture's a word we use a lot in marketing and lead opportunity, but not necessarily for contacts and warm contacts and customers. So I can really see that benefit being an account manager myself. I'm going to be handing over next to Steve Banner. I believe, Steve, you'll be using the slide deck.
Thank you, Luke. Yeah. Are you okay to next slide for me, please?
Yes.
Good morning, all. So 10 minutes, 2 subjects this morning, Microsoft Entra, and also we'll look at savings plans as well within the Azure world. Microsoft Entra is a new term. It's a service from Microsoft, or it's a suite really of services. Microsoft's quote, let me get it here to make sure. Entra is a entryway into a world of possibilities and not a gateway creating friction when it comes to managing identities. So that's what Entra is. But what does it comprise of? Well, there's 5 main components to Entra. Azure Active Directory, we all know and love, which remains the same. So it still has permissions management in there. It still has conditional access, privileged identity, etc. We've got Microsoft ENTRA-PERMISSIONS management, and that's what we're going to look at in a little bit more depth this morning, as it says on the tin, managing permissions. Also Microsoft Entra Verified ID. It's really new. It's a decentralized identity management tool, service. We could spend many hours looking into that. We also have 2 new, even though Entra is a new service, we've got 2 new components to it, Microsoft Entra Workload Identities and Identity Governance. It really highlights the automation of identity management for users. And also an interesting stat I didn't pick up until looking at this, there's about a 5-to-1 ratio of workload or app identities per user in most organizations that use Microsoft identities. So there's automation there. But this morning we're going to look at permissions management in a bit more depth. Next slide, please, Luke. Thank you very much. So a classic issue that organizations face when managing identities is identity permission creep. So it might be that there are obviously members of the organization doing administrative jobs. There are granted identities. There may be development teams that are granted certain roles, certain access, and keeping those identities to a least privileged model can be challenging. Obviously, the more creep there is, the more things users or apps can do. the more risk there is of a security breach. So it's somewhat of a battle, it can be, to keep these privileges in check. And Microsoft have utilized this tool, permissions management, for three main parts really. Discover what's out there, do we know? Remediate, so how can we trim back without hindering the users or apps what they need to do? And then once that baseline is achieved, to monitor and obviously to automate where possible this privileges that the users or apps have. So full visibility, automate the principle of least privilege where we can to make life easier for ourselves and to baseline, and obviously unify the cloud access policies. So what does it look like? Let's have a look. So if you have access to your Azure Active Directory at the moment, you can test this out by entra.microsoft.com. It will take you to the new Entra portal, another portal to manage. In the portal are three areas, what we discussed: Azure Active Directory, permissions management, and verified ID. Azure Active Directory looks very similar to what's in the Azure portal. It is surfaced slightly differently, so you can navigate to identity governance. It brings all of your management tools to a single area, which can make life easier. But what we're going to look at is the new permissions management. This was an acquisition by Microsoft, as we can see, another portal here. So Cloud Knox, Microsoft acquisition, and we're now looking at the identity permissions. So it's relatively easy to set up. Go to settings. It's multi-cloud. So not only does it support Azure, it also supports AWS and GCP, and Google Cloud. To get it working, we need to point it at something. So we create a data collector. And this, of course, can be data collectors over many clouds, should we require it. At the moment, our trial one, we've onboarded it to the Crimson environment. Now, interestingly, the Crimson environment has our production subscriptions and also has a lot of development and test subscriptions as well. So obviously, this is the whole breadth. Sometimes it may be that it's the lesser used subscriptions which might increase more risk. Once it's onboarded, it takes about an hour or so, depending on the size of your organization. It'll go and find all of the objects, permissions, users, apps, etc. within the connector. Go to the dashboard, and it's got the concept of a permission creep index. So straight away, you can get a score of how well your environment has been assessed by this PCI number. We've got here, I'm pointing specifically at development prescriptions. So we've got 8 identities in there. And if I scroll down here, 6 of them are inactive. I would like to highlight, this is for test purposes here, so we've got some decent stats to show you. What we can then do is we can do a bit more analytics on that. Now, you imagine if this is a large organization where we've got thousands of objects. The nice thing about this is it rolls up those that are compliant. They do have minimal permissions, and those that aren't, they have a lot of permissions granted to them. We can see here that we've got a few that are deemed as high permission creep, so something needs doing. Perhaps we can assess this. Granted 12,000 things they can do within our Azure subscription that we're pointed to, and actually only 6 have been used recently. So that's great when we can get reports out. This time won't allow us to go into depth, but it shows how easy it is to set up and how easy it is to start getting data back. Remediation is the big one. Now, we've not set up the remediation step here, but what it also assists with is remediation steps as well. So if there are objects that users don't use, we can analyze that, and then we can reduce their permissions footprint. Over time, autopilot as well, what we can look to do is to automate this so that permissions can be withdrawn once we're happy with the steps. And obviously that gives us a lot more healthy environment from a security perspective. So hopefully that's give you a feel for what Entra is. It took me a while to digest the different component parts and specifically around the permissions management as well. Back to the slides, please, Luke. Second thing to cover off today is a new Microsoft Azure savings plan. So if we work in Azure world, there's the concept of reservation plans at the moment. So we make a commitment to Microsoft to say, for the next 1 or 3 years, I'm going to spend this much on these things. And Microsoft will say, great, we'll give you a reduction in cost. So the assessment of your current environment or to-be environment, if there are new workloads being migrated to Azure, this is a big part of cost savings. And obviously with the theme of trying to get more for our money or for our cloud-based objects, this is really useful. Now, this is new. Reservations have been around for some time. The savings plan is relatively new. How does it differ? Well, it's the same concept of you make a commitment for 1 or 3 years, up to 65% savings. You can then optimize on savings, and it allows you to be quite dynamic with these things. So you don't have to make one big savings plan to begin with. You can make many savings plans if you wish to, based upon your organization or cost centers, whatever your organization may look like. Next slide, please, Luke. The difference with saving plans is Azure reservations are good, but they're very targeted. I want a certain tier of machine. I'm going to use it for 3 years. And if I change, if my needs change, then I have to make a new reservation or trade in the reservation. So there's some management there, and it's quite granular. Savings plans are more wide ranging. You can apply them to your whole organization. You can apply them to specific parts, your subscriptions or your resource groups, and say, I'm going to commit to spending this much. Now, interestingly, it's on compute resources, so virtual machines, app services, function plans, container instances, etc. So if you have any of these within your organization, then the savings plan is really useful assessment. Just a point as well, in the detail point, we'll see here that the Azure savings plan for compute can only be applied to the app service upgraded to Premium V3. Now, if you've been using Azure for a while, you'll probably have lots of app services. They can be quite costly. You may have a version 1, a version 2, or version 3. Version 3 is relatively new. So if you went to, say, assess my whole Azure environment and you had 20 Premium V2 plans, they wouldn't be in scope for savings. To upgrade from V2 to V3 is a relatively simple process. So it just shows that with a little bit of tweaking in the environment, upgrading those app plans, all of a sudden they come in scope for the cost savings. So if you have access, if you go to savings plan within your Azure portal, it will actually give you an assessment of what you could save. You just point it at the scope and it gives you a percentage. So really useful tool just to check. And I think that's my 10 minutes up. Thank you.
Fantastic, Steve. I was curious though, because the customer asked a similar question the other day regarding Azure reserved instances and the Azure saving plans, just whether they can be used together.
I'm glad you asked me that. Thank you, Luke. They can be, is the answer. And actually, reservations, although they're quite targeted, can offer bigger savings. You've been quite specific, saying I want to reserve this, so you could get 60% perhaps saving. Savings plans don't offer quite as much discount, but are more broad. So you can actually dovetail both of them together, should you wish to. And in fact, one of the recommendations is to do a full assessment of your environment, use both if they're both relevant, and you'll get the best saving.
Fantastic. I'll leave you to pass the message on to my customer.
Thank you.
Or get them to watch this video.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Perfect. I'm handing over to Ollie now. Ollie, I believe again you're doing a demonstration.
Hi. Yes, I am doing a demonstration. I'm actually gonna run through hopefully a quite a popular topic at the moment. It's a bit of a buzzword within IT, and that is OpenAI ChatGPT or GTP3, and this is I guess a new partnership with Microsoft. One of the companies, OpenAI, has partnership with Microsoft to produce some really cool AI models, and seeing that at work. So just to give you a brief introduction, so OpenAI, as I said, it originated in 2015, and it is responsible for producing a revolutionary AI models and services. Their mission, as they say on their website, is to ensure that artificial intelligence benefits all of humanity. So fair enough, brave words. What exactly do they do, or have they done? So there's a couple of highlights there that you can see on the screen. DALL-E 2, which is a new AI system that can generate realistic images and art from description in natural language, is absolutely fantastic. Those are some of the examples of the pictures that people have come up with, and it is just, you know, using that natural language and creating art. It is absolutely fantastic, and these really are probably sentence long descriptions, and then they just go ahead and can create some fantastic art. What OpenAI also has is an OpenAI codex. So they have an AI model for allowing developers, coders, to very quickly translate natural language into code, but also the other way around. If you give it some code, it will then work out, give you a sort of a natural way of explaining what that code is trying to do. So really revolutionary stuff. But what it also, the ones that you guys may have seen in the news or in news articles recently is ChatGPT. So what is GTP3? So GTP3 is known as the generative pre-trained transformer. Don't ask me what any of that means, but it basically, it's an auto-regressive language model that uses sort of deep learning to produce human-like text. So this is really your AI bot on steroids, really. So I played around with it, and it's absolutely fantastic. You know, you guys can all log on to OpenAI and actually have a play around with ChatGPT if you haven't already. There some fun things that I was doing the other day. You can actually, yes, finding the information is absolutely brilliant, but you can have a little bit of fun with it. So I said, can you explain low-code development but as a pirate? And it's gone, aye, Captain, low-code development be like charting a course on a map, blah, 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 blah. So it actually speaks to me like a pirate, but actually gives me the right information. So I was like, okay, well, let's see how far we can go with this. So I said, okay, can you explain Power Platform as a posh Englishman? And it certainly did, certainly old chap, blah, 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 much like a well-tailored Savile Row suit. So it has got quite a lot going for it. It is a really good AI model and a fantastic sort of natural language speaking chatbot. So there's a number of other things that you can do with it with chatbot, but at the moment you're looking at this, and yeah, that's great, Ollie, but it's open API, and it's in a chatbot. How do we get this into the Power Platform, or what is Microsoft using OpenAI and these AI models for? Now that's really interesting. Microsoft have actually extended their partnership with this company, gave them a boatload more cash to keep going. There are rumors around the net around GTP4, which will be 100 times more powerful than GTP3. The natural language, the prompting that you do, the questions that you can ask, and the things you're going to get back is going to be even faster, better, and more appropriate to what you're asking. So that's going to be really interesting. But because they have this partnership, Microsoft are front and center of enabling their products and their applications to using these AI models already. And we can already see that within some of the elements of the Power Platform. So what I'm going to take you through now is a couple of areas, starting with some Canvas apps. I'll take you through how it's used in Flow, and then if I've got enough time, I've also got how we can sort of replicate ChatGPT within a Power App. So if we're looking at a Canvas app, so just very quickly, this is a Canvas app. On the screen is the corporate accounts, and what I've done here is I've actually added what's known as gallery control. So a gallery control is just a control on the form that allows us to collect information from a specific data source. This would be all of my accounts within Dataverse. Now, looking at this, it's like, oh, okay, well, that I've got the list back, but looking at these elements, not particularly happy with the fact that we've got, you know, all of these account numbers and then this date range in a really funny way as well. Now, what we use to get, you know, get the better formatting for this is using PowerFX and actually, you know, change the formatting. The downside is you have to know FX really, really well, and you have to remember those formulas. Well, not anymore. See this light bulb there? If you were to click that, what you can see is that it's going to give you ideas. And what you can try and do is it gives you some ideas about maybe some of the different types of fields that you can use instead of date time. But also what we can do is actually change the formatting by supplying it something. And what it does is it uses GTP3 to actually then find out what kind of formatting you're after and then give us the PowerFX code for that. So we're looking at the 28th of the 1st, 2023. I actually don't really care about the day, and I obviously don't care about the time of when this account was created. So maybe if I just say, okay, well, actually, I just want, say, Jan 23. And what it's going to do, it's going to work out, okay, well, that's the current format, that's the desired format. What can GTP3 do to assist in that one? And what it will give me back is actually what you can do is this one here, and then that is the PowerFX code that will then strip out the dates. And it hasn't quite worked very well. Maybe if we just try another one. So if we add some more examples, well, let's have a look. So this one is February 23. So if we do February 23, change that one since it's overwritten. Stop doing caps because we'll get confused. Let's see if it makes it a little bit easier for us to read. Oh no, it was correct. It's just all of these accounts were created on January 23. So happy days. So what we can do is very, very quickly come to realize that we want actually a good date, and you can do that and you can apply that quite easily. So again, you don't have to worry about the ins and outs of PowerFX. Now here, I don't have account IDs for all of my accounts, so that's probably not the best field to use. So I'm probably wanting to think maybe account name on this field. So you could go through IDs, but don't forget you also have the old school way of doing this, and you can actually just show on the calendar on the control, if I can get it. You can obviously edit the fields here as well. So if I was to say account number, actually, I just want name. If I can find it. Seems I've deleted the account name. That's always nice, isn't it? Anyway, so what we can do here, that's one way of showing you how ChatGPT works. Well, GTP3 works within a Canvas app. We can also do the same sort of thing when we're in the Flow world. So within Flow, usually on the top here, when we're trying to create a new flow, we have automated account flows, instant flows, scheduled flows, but we've got this new one in preview. You won't find this in the UK tenants. It is being rolled out to different regions, but at the moment it is still just in the US. But if you want to describe a flow, so rather than actually having to think about the connectors you need and think about setting those up, you actually just want to describe your process, you can actually click on here and then describe the process. So I can say, when, actually, rather than typing it out, I've got one pre-canned. I'm going to say when a new item is created in SharePoint, a new account record needs to be created in Dataverse. And if it will then look at that natural language and think, okay, what connectors do I need? What components and what activities is going to be a part of this flow? And the suggested flow is the trigger when SharePoint is created, and some action there is a new row in Microsoft Dataverse. Perfect. That's exactly what I need. So you can go ahead and go next. What it will do for you is then try and find the best ways of connecting so that you can actually run those actions. And it's found that I am signed into SharePoint and to Dataverse, so I can crack on and go ahead. And what it'll also do is give me some prompts around my settings. So rather than being in Power Automate and going into the component and trying to work out the settings and trying to find the right elements, it's a little bit of a friendlier version of this. So you can sit there and go, okay, well, I think my list is on my communication site, and I think it was around corporate accounts that I wanted into Dataverse. And my Dataverse table is obviously I want to go to my accounts. So then with a couple of bits of setup, what's happened already is that I've got the basics of a new flow with the right connectors and the right triggers and actions. So I can then go ahead and have a look at populating this information in more. So with this one, yes, I'm creating an account, but what I need to do is then populate all of the specific elements. Now, one of the areas that I want to do that we get from here is the account number. Now, the only problem with getting the account number is within SharePoint, if you have a look at my lists, I actually just have the account numbers as just digits. Now, within Dynamics, I actually have, whenever I get accounts from corporate, I actually want to have an identifier on that account just so that I know it's also from corporate. So what I can do here, and what I have to usually do, is write an expression from scratch to maybe combine the number and some identifier to make it corporate. What I can do here is actually, within the expression, I can format data by examples. Now, this is so much easier when I'm thinking about doing things and not worrying about expressions, but giving it examples and it comes up with the right expressions. So I'm just going to do a really straightforward one. We're talking about account number, and I'm going to go
Ollie, I've let you go over a little bit, but we'll have to wrap up soon.
We're already over. Yeah. Okay. So basically, what you can do is you can actually do a lot of formatting, a lot of different things with that, and that's absolutely fantastic. It's one of those really, really quick things. What you can also do with ChatGPT, and I will quickly run through some other things now, is actually connect it through to Power Apps. You can do this by connecting. There's a connector written by a very smart man, Robin Rosengren, who is a really good guy, developer, platform developer, who's been creating his own custom connectors. He's created an OpenAI connector to actually then show you a Power App. So if you write the flow, you can have a load of flows and actually have a Power App that uses ChatGPT within your Power Apps area. So if I just click on here, it will show me ChatGPT.
You've been able to run over Ollie because the stuff he's showing is too cool.
So I was thinking.
So now I've created a Power App, or well, we've got a Power App here, and then there's some chats there, so I can literally ask it anything. So what's a typical coming of age movie? And what it will do then is go through the API, through Flow, and give me typical coming of age, protagonist experience, blah, 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 blah. The good thing about it is it stays in context. So if I say, okay, that's great, an example of that. What about if I did an example? It would also do that as well. So you can do quite a lot of things. But yeah, I know I've overrun loads, so I'll stop it there. But thank you.
We'll let you off, Ollie. Maybe in the next show we should just do the Ollie show for an hour. Fantastic. I'm going to swiftly hand over to Caroline, who's going to be exploring everything around Microsoft 365. Caroline, I'm more than happy for you to take control, or I can click through.
I'll share my screen. I think it's probably easier, isn't it?
Good shout.
Knowing what Ollie's like, I was prepared. So I have done some slides to share with you. You know, I usually like to do live demos, so you know this is going to be painful just doing slides. But I just wanted nothing as exciting as what Ollie's just showed us, because I'm just dying to look at that now. But a couple of things that you need to be aware of. Stream migration to OneDrive and SharePoint it's actually happened. So unless you put in a support ticket with Microsoft and said, actually, we don't want to do this, you'll find that your stream recordings are actually going into SharePoint and OneDrive now anyway. But what about all the legacy stuff that's behind? So there's a migration tool that I'd like to talk about, and also want to touch on Teams Wiki retirement. But Emily wrote a blog about it, so we can always read that if we run out of time. But Stream at the moment is now stored in OneDrive, your personal area, or it's stored in SharePoint. But you might have lots of stuff that you might have been a big Stream user before. You've got all these meetings. So the Microsoft timeline for this is quite tight. It's next year. So they're going to switch off Classic Stream next year. So it's something you need to tell your users about and let them know, but also think about those legacy videos. Now, do you really want to keep videos, really long videos that you had anyway, or do you want to move them? But you might have used Stream. I certainly used Stream where we had a channel, a shared channel for all our training videos, and things like that will need to be moved somewhere. Now, the thing that this is obviously going to excite me because the place is SharePoint, and by moving to SharePoint, it gives us a few more things that we didn't have. So things to think about is to discover what you've got first, and there's a brilliant report you can run from Microsoft. They've got the Migration Center. If you go to the Admin Center in Stream Classic, there's a link for a report there that you can run. It will show you all the videos that people have got, where they're stored, what container they're in. They've also added a really nice Power BI template for it, so you can have a really good look at what that does. Obviously, for me, make sure you inform people about what's going on. And one of the nice things you can do is in Stream Classic, you can put your own message across the top as a banner to say this is what's happening. And you can have a URL in there. So do a news item on your intranet, tell people what's happening, inform them. The main thing is try and get people to delete as many videos as possible. You don't want to be migrating things across. The migration tool itself does containers. So it's not really granular at the moment. You can't go down and say, oh, I'm just going to pick this video, and this video that Luke's done. It's all of Luke's videos. So you would want Luke to go and delete any that are unnecessary that he's currently got in Stream. The other thing that I think is really important to know about is when we record a meeting at the moment, it goes into the recordings, and meetings now have an expiration date, which is great. So after a while, they'll get deleted. You do get informed about that, and that's controlled by the Teams Admin Center. However, when you're using the migration tool, just be aware that those recordings took place before this happened. So they will go in, you can move them into recordings. They will not be given an expiry date. So they'll be moving and they'll be staying there forever. So a couple of little things that could catch you out as you go along. These are just some examples. So you've got the grim looking Excel version of it, but you get a really nice Power BI dashboard that you can go through and see all those videos that are there and look at what you're migrating. And it's quite scary. So what about moving it to SharePoint then? Well, I'm really excited about it going to SharePoint because it gives us the advantages of choosing where we put it. So if you've got a channel currently dedicated to certain types of videos, why not set up a SharePoint communication site for those now instead, and you can put them all in there. If you've got different libraries, you can apply different metadata. So you might, if you use sensitivity labels in your organization, then isn't this great? If you do any board meetings that you've recorded, you can add a sensitivity label to it automatically, so you can say this isn't going to be shared externally. But you also get lots of little things just by opening it in your OneDrive now. So you can go in and add things in that called chapters. So you can go and edit your video and just put sort of markers in that you can start to. You can also do comments. So you can comment to a colleague and say, can you look at this area, and send them the chapter. One thing to be aware of though, if you are putting comments into the video and then you share it, anyone you share it with can see those comments. So just be a bit careful if you're going to share it with an external person, what you're saying in those comments. So lots of things to be thinking, but the great thing is you've got the big share button that we are so used to now and people are familiar with. I don't know about you, but we've had a lot of issues with people. They do a recording and they don't know how to share it. Well, now it's the same way that we share documents, so makes life a lot easier. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the Teams wiki retirements. Every time you created a team, you got a wiki. These are going to go, they did say it was going to be February, so now, but it has changed. The video that they've done to accompany it now says April, but it's still a short time that these wikis are going to go. And actually, I've been surprised how many people do use wikis because they're just there. They're just there to put notes in. There is a tool, we haven't seen it working yet. So it's just they've just released a video of what it's going to be, and you'll click on the video, you'll click on your wiki, and it's going to migrate it to OneNote notebooks. This to me is a dream because I didn't like wikis. I had the misfortune of accidentally deleting a tab of a wiki and losing the data. So I prefer to have OneNote, and you can open it in the app and work on it instead. But just so you know, this is the graphic that they're sending to you. So you'll click on it and it'll say wiki tabs will go away in April 2023. You can export your content to the notes tab. So we're now going to get an extra tab in Teams called notes. So you're going to have wiki and notes. We need to tell people about this because it's going to confuse people. Then it's going to go and it's going to tell you it's exporting it, and each page will become a new page in the OneNote notebook. Thing that makes me a little bit worried about this is the OneNote notebook is shared by everybody in the team. So if you are using private channels, be a bit careful about this because everybody can see the OneNote notebook. It's going to export the pages and then it's going to tell you it's finished. So it's a really fast little video that they've done, but it's on there and it's saying the content. So just to warn you, you can open your OneNote page. You can see all the sections by clicking on the little bookcase symbol on the left. People find it hard to navigate around. You've also got the ability to look at to look at version history of a OneNote page by just right clicking on the page. If you have deleted a wiki tab and so you've lost that content, you can get it back. Behind every team is the SharePoint site. If you go to site contents, there's a folder there called Teams Wiki Data, and in there you will see a folder for every one of your channels and a page for each one of your wikis. They're called .mht. Right click on it and download the file and save it as a HTML file, and then you'll be able to open it in the browser and you'll be able to read it. So at least we can get this back. You're going to lose some wikis. Some people are just going to go in, they're going to delete it, and then in the team, how can I get it back? So that's how we do it. Running out of time, so just to show you in OneNote, make sure you can expand it from here so you can see sections, and you can right click on a page name, you can see version history, and it's also a great way of getting the link to that page if you want to put it in a conversation. And talking of conversations, one of the reasons people use wikis is they can mention people. Well, if you're in a OneNote notebook, there is an icon for conversation. It'll start a new post. You can mention people in that and everyone can see the conversation. Talked fast, that's everything I've got. So thank you.
There was plenty of the information there, Caroline. I'm sure most people will be watching that video back to make note of it all.
Slow it down.
Straight back over to you though, because there was one question in the chat. A reminder to anyone who wants to ask questions, please use the chat function on Teams. But can you still change the playback speed with these migrated videos?
So the way I did it was I went into another tool. So you can I whereas you could do it before in Stream and you've still got Stream Classic, so you can put it into Classic and do it in Classic. I'm actually doing it in PowerPoint at the moment if I want to trim a video. So I think it's one that will appear in the not too distant future. But no, we haven't got the great editing that we had before at the moment.
Cool, perfect. And there was another question fired out for Ollie, I believe, around the GTP. Around, is there any limitations of GTP? It didn't look like there was any limitations, but I'm sure there will be somewhere.
Excuse me. Yeah. There is a little bit. I guess we just got to remember that it is an AI model. So that when you're playing around with this, depending on what you ask, it can come up with some biased opinions and things like that. But also not remembering that the model it uses is only up to 2021. So if there's anything brand new you're trying to ask it, or you're trying to get it to provide information for, it's not going to know it. But that again, it is going to hopefully be resolved, when you get to the later models of GTP4. So yeah, there is a few things just to watch out for.
I'm curious as well, who actually owns all of that? So there's a vast amount of information and data that sits behind everything AI.
Yeah.
And then organizations will embellish that AI capability with further data, and it would grow in time. Who actually owns that data? That's my question. I'm curious.
So yeah, it is a tricky one. I think a lot from GTP3. I think they have definitely utilized things, open source stuff like Wikipedia, so open data to trawl through. But they've also then supplied it hundreds and thousands of books, which all has, I guess, a bit of intellectual property. So the jury's out in terms of ownership. I don't know. I guess in terms of the model, OpenAI owns the way to access the data, but the actual ownership of the data is a bit unclear, really.
I'm sure Microsoft will invent some new licensing fee somewhere or other in the future. Fantastic. It's been a great session all. There's been a lot of information flying around. We will be sharing this on YouTube and on our social channels, so feel free to share with colleagues or rewatch if there's any further snippets of information. Also feel free to reach out to any of the team at Crimson if there is any further questions. I'm just sharing on screen now. If you are able to complete the survey, we really appreciate any feedback. We try and evolve these sessions and try and make them as insightful as possible. So really welcome your feedback, anything you're able to provide. And then finally, if you haven't already done so, secure a season ticket. And that just means that you signed up to all of these sessions. We run these sessions every other month, and the format remains unchanged of those 10-minute snapshots of each of those 4 areas. Anything else, then please let us know. But thank you all. I think we may be done for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke.
Bye.